All right, well, let's call this Board of Commissioners meeting to order on December 21st, 2021. And if you would, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And welcome everyone. Commissioner Main is on holiday for the Christmas season. He and his wife are traveling across the nation to visit their son in Florida. Think strongly about his wife being cooped up in a car in a motel room with Bob for an entire week. Let's go forward and start with department heads. Item 2A, request approval of IGA number 173131 with Oregon Health Authority and authorized chair to sign. Coos Health and Wellness. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, John. This is our behavioral health state agreement we get every year, and it's basically the same as last year.
Okay, I move to approve the IGA with Oregon Health Authority and authorize the chair to sign.
Second, discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved. Item 2B, request approval of contract with Joseph Paulette and authorized chair to sign. Michael, you're on again.
Yes, this is a contract to produce 3 videos for the public health COVID response that's geared toward this Hispanic using the equity funds that we needed to spend by the end of this month.
Thank you.
Very good. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the contract with Joseph Paulette and authorize the chair to sign.
Second, discussion. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved. Mike, I think you have a couple of late agenda items. You want to handle those now?
Yes, please.
Okay, late agenda item 4A, request approval to hire Greg Garrow at step 3 plus 5%.
Yes, we found Greg Garrow to fill our abandoned school district position, and he has spent time as a high school social worker, and he has also been dealing with severely mentally ill in a prison setting. He is CADAC certified in alcohol and drug treatment, and he has training in EMDR and ACE training.
Wow, sounds like a good find.
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
Sure, I move to approve hiring Greg Garrow at step 3 plus 5% of pay grade 447 for the position of MHS 2.
Second, discussion.
The plus 5% is because of his certification? The
Yes,
plus 5% is because of his certification?
yes, that is true.
Okay, thank you.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Late agenda item 4B, request approval to disperse grant and ARP funds, Coos Health and Wellness.
Yeah, so on Monday, David received an email from the Oregon Health Authority about applying for one-time retention payments for our crisis staff. OHA had already implemented retention payments for Oregon's behavioral health residential provider system to help retain critical workforce. The application was due Thursday the 16th, and the state was saying that they'll send out the funds this week for this purpose, and those funds will need to be spent by the end of the year. In addition to these funds, we have the American Rescue Plan funds, which Rebecca and David had secured for us, and some funds from last year that can be used for this purpose. We are requesting to use these funds to give one-time retention payments to each CHW staff, including temporary staff. Majority of the temporary staff are working on the COVID response. The payments are up to $2,000 a piece, and it's based on whether they're full-time. If they work greater than full part-time or if they work less than part-time. There's different amounts for each. The cost in total will be about $200,000 plus payroll taxes and PERS and plus the fees from the temp agencies that they'll charge us. We have a total of 94 staff and 27 temps. There has been what Dr. Brigham of ADAPT recently referred to as hyperinflation for behavioral health staff due to the current workforce shortage. OHA also recognized this workforce shortage, which is one of the reasons why they decided to make these one-time retention payments. With rising wages, signing bonus opportunities, difficulty in finding workers, a lack of affordable childcare, infection risks, infection-related illnesses, housing shortages in our area, and the potential for our employees to leave very high, we need to retain as many staff as possible to provide our services to our community. And, you know, public health in general has also seen unusually high numbers of departures and can expect more. The biggest concern for the public health workforce is their mental health. They're being put in unfamiliar roles, working different shifts, sometimes part-time shifts or on-call shifts. These are the operations sections. They're dealing with pockets of opposition, uncooperative and or hostile community members and organizations. And now we prepare for another rise in cases, all of which have taken its toll. What I'm proposing is a proactive strategy to retain our workforce, raise morale, improve overall long-term retention to help mitigate potential staffing shortages in the near future.
Thank you, Mike.
John, would you prefer a motion and then we can have discussion?
Let's do a motion. I have some things I'd like to clarify here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have a motion so we can open this for discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move to approve this one-time retention payment for public health, for Coos Health and Wellness staff as outlined by Mike.
And I second that. Mike, I do have some concerns. I appreciate so much the work that everyone at Coos Health and Wellness has done and will be continuing to do. But I back up. Is everyone involved in this? Doing a blanket distribution like this leads me to the question: has everyone been involved in the duress of dealing with COVID?
I would say that yes, that's true. I mean, even some of the finance staff, they're dealing with increased billing pressures due to COVID and, you know, trying to bill out these variable vaccine records that come back incomplete, they come back illegible. I mean, there is stress up and down our organization due to this.
Thank you. That helps. The next question is, you call these retention funds,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a one-shot deal.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll buy some appreciation, but is there anything to stop any of the recipients from taking these funds and then moving on?
No, there isn't. And there was kind of a brief discussion, if you want to call it that. If you had an agreement with staff, they seem to be unenforceable. And so we kind of just said that we weren't going to have these. The state isn't requiring them to say you have to stay for a certain amount of time.
And the next question, I don't think is one for you necessarily to answer. I would appreciate some input from perhaps HR and from the other commissioners. I do have a concern. There are funds available, kind of, I believe they'd be kind of a take it use it or leave it, or use it or lose it situation on the funding for this. But I am concerned that this might spread to the rest of our staff throughout the county, and how would we fund that? Is that concern unfounded or founded in the estimate of HR and the commissioners, other commissioners?
You want me first?
Sure.
I think, you know, it's been my experience as a commissioner that when we offer something to one group of employees, we do naturally get questions from other employees about whether or not this also applies to them. So I would expect that to be a discussion. I think the important note here is that, you know, while we've all been working through the pandemic, these truly are the employees that have been on the front line of the response, and have had, you know, the direct exposure. Also, these funds are coming, at least in part, directly from the state and are earmarked for this specific group of employees.
Okay.
We don't have an option to spread this out among all county employees. You know, this is what Mike is getting the money for, and for that specific group of employees. I had a similar question for him, which I think kind of dovetails into what you're asking, which is, are we able to take this money and use it on services instead? It's my understanding that these are not discretionary funds, that the state is saying either take these funds and give them to your employees as a retention bonus, or don't take them at all.
That is true for the OHA payments for the crisis workers.
Okay.
Okay.
County Council, HR, any comments? Hearing none.
Yeah,
Okay,
hang on.
Oh,
Hang on, John. I was muted and I was just unmuted. So
how unusual.
yeah. I would just like to add just that if we could, because this agenda item doesn't have the documentation about, you know, the use of these funds attached with it. So just, I wanted to note for Mike that, you know, if we could get documentation of the allowable uses of these funds so that we could provide that to interested people who ask us at HR, you know, why are these funds going to certain people and not others, then we could show that to them, including union reps. Then that will help us answer those questions if they come in.
Okay, yeah, I can work with Caroline on that.
Thank you.
And I believe Megan has a question, Megan Sims.
I just wanted to clarify for the record that the ARP funds are not the county's allocation. They are specific ARP funds that were passed through the state and went to health and wellness specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
And John and Melissa, this is Caroline in HR. I just like to say that Mike did work very closely with HR and County Council on this, and we did talk to the unions about it. And that's my only comment.
Thank you so much. Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion is approved. Michael, thank you so much for your thoroughness in this. I had questions and I was very pleased with your answer. So thank you. With that, let's move on to item 2C. Request approval of emergency management performance grant and authorize chair to sign. Sheriff Zanny. Or Gabe, are you handling this? Offline.
I've got Don Delirium on that one, right?
Don't see. Let's move on past this and we'll come back to it then. Bobby, can you see if you can contact someone from the sheriff office to,
Looks like Gabe is back online now.
pardon me? Oh, Gabe's online. Good.
Looks like it.
Gabe, can you hear me? Oh, he's having trouble unmuting. Let's move on past this and see if Captain Fabrizio can figure out a way to get unmuted, and then we'll come back to it. So let's move on to item 2D, request approval of order adopting an updated policy concerning removal of persons camping on county property. County Council.
So under Oregon law, the county has to have a policy governing the removal of homeless persons camping on county property. We have an old policy from 1992. The statute that governs that policy was recently amended, and we're required to update our policy to match with the new requirements. So Order 2112-078L was written to comply with the new ORS 203.079. I had conversations with the sheriff's office about this and their deputy who would be assigned to enforcement if we had to do that. I've had conversations about complying with some of the requirements with the Devereaux Center and some other local organizations so that we could comply with this statute should we need to use it.
I move to approve order 21-12-078L, adopting an updated policy concerning the removal of persons camping on county property.
And I second that. Discussion.
Thank you for updating that, Matt.
No
I
problem.
assume we have no choice but to adopt this, but it appears to me that we will be incurring some costs, likely to be incurring some costs. Does the state provide any help in that regard? I assume not.
Well, so the one potential cost, a few potential costs that we would incur, but I think the primary one would be the storage of property that was abandoned on site. And the main new requirement in the statute is that instead of being able to store that unclaimed property anywhere in the county, we would have to store it in the community in which it was found, which means that we would have to find locations in different areas. I think we can keep some of those costs down. I've been talking, that's why I talked with the Devereaux Center about if there were smaller camps in that area that we did end up having to clean up and we had some unclaimed property, they could store small amounts of it. If we had a large camp, then that might create an issue where we would need to get a storage unit or something like that. There is nothing in the statute providing for our reimbursement, so it might be a cost that we would have to incur. It could be something, I don't anticipate it would be very high, so it would be something I could probably find in my own budget if we had to do it.
All right, any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Let's move on to item 2E, request approval of resolution advancing taxes and assessments to predator control damage district and approving plan for disposition of residual district funds with a resolution to transfer expenditure funds. County
Okay.
Council.
So this is the predator damage control district was created under Oregon law that sunsets January 2nd, 2022. It's a bit of a unusual dissolution of a district because it's its own sort of animal, for lack of a better word, and it doesn't directly fall on ORS 198. To look real hard, Megan and I looked hard about the best way to wind down the district, and this is what we came up with. So proposed resolution 2112-237L sets forth the plan for winding down the affairs of the district. First, the resolution would advance the balance of uncollected taxes to the district pursuant to ORS 311.392. So basically that is all the taxes that we haven't collected, we advance so we can create a zero tax balance and just close that out. So any future taxes that come in just go to the general fund. So it's an advance payment. This is next, the resolution provides that the county will continue to use district funds to pay the district's share of the USDA APHIS contract until the end of this fiscal year. And that's our current contract that's shared by the district and forestry for services they provide. Additionally, the county will talk with any new nonprofit that is created to provide the same services in the area formerly controlled by the district. If an agreement with a nonprofit for future predator damage control services is not reached, the county will expend any remaining balance of district funds for the provision of predator damage control services. So essentially, this is just saying we're going to use the balance of the fund to provide the services that we're already providing in that area. If they form a nonprofit, we can talk with them about giving them those funds or working that out. And then finally, Resolution 2112-235B transfers funds from operating contingency to the payment of advanced taxes in order to advance the uncollected taxes.
Okay, it appears as though we could deal with these two resolutions in one motion. Melissa, would you have any objection to that?
I do not.
If so, would you mind offering a motion?
Yes, I move to
Or if
approve
not, would you
resolution
mind
21-12-235B and resolution 21-12-237L.
And I second that. Discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Item 2F, request approval of resolution amending county rules for public improvement contracts. County Council, you're dominating this today, Nat.
No. So this is a simple one. It's just that the law has changed, which raises the threshold for requiring competitive quotes on public improvement contracts from $5,000 to $10,000. So we would be amending the county rules to change that. Essentially strike out 5,000, replace it with 10,000.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution 21-12-236L.
Second. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Item 2G, request approval of amendment to IGA with City of Coos Bay for Englewood School Site. County Council.
All right, so the Englewood School Site is a property we received through tax foreclosure. The property is within the city limits of Coos Bay, and we have an IGA with Coos Bay in which they are committed to clean up the property. And upon final cleanup, we had agreed to transfer the property to Orca for the construction of low-income housing or a child care facility. The circumstances have changed, and Orca no longer wishes to receive the property. We've been working with Northwest Housing Alternatives, who, in my opinion, is well positioned to make the project happen and get it done. So they wish to assume the responsibilities of Orca and take title to the property after it's been cleaned up by the city. So we're just amending the IGA to replace references to Orca with NHA so that we can change our plan here a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move to approve and sign the amendment to the intergovernmental agreement for management and cleanup of the Englewood school site.
Second. Discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Item 2H, request approval of resolution authorizing county's application for assumption of building inspection program. County Council.
So the county is looking to submit a final application to the Building Code Division of the state of Oregon to assume responsibility for the Building Code and Electrical Inspection Program. This resolution would formally approve the county doing that, and this is required in order for the state to consider our application.
I move to approve Resolution 21-12-239L, authorizing Coos County's applications for the assumption of a building code and electrical inspection program.
And I second that. Melissa, would you mind, for the benefit of those who've not been involved with this resolution, why we are doing this?
Sure. This is something that I think that we've talked about on and off for years. But as housing has become more and more of an issue, not just here, but statewide, we've realized that one of the obstacles to housing going in Coos County is the long time that it takes for building codes to work the process, and that people frankly find, having to go back and forth from one office to another to be really confusing. Jill Rolfe, our planning director, has stepped forward and has done, the majority of the lift to get us to this point about taking over building codes. And we would create a community development department instead of a planning department. And so it would go under that department, but it would make us much more of a one-stop shop for people that are looking to build a home in the county, or even just make a substantive change to their home in the county. I really feel like our citizens will see a difference in, the process anyway of working through getting building permits, and this will be smoother for everyone. And Nat has also done a lot of work on this, and just really appreciate the way that our staff has stepped up and working on making this happen.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved. Let's return then to item 2C, request approval of emergency management performance grant and authorize chair to sign. Captain Fabrizio, have you been able to?
I believe so.
There
Can you hear
I
me
hear
now?
you. Thank you. Can you handle this for us?
Yes, I'm so sorry about that.
Good. Oh, no problem. Thank you so much.
Darn technology. Thank you. Thanks for coming back to me. I'm sorry about that. So this is the Emergency Management Program grant, the annual grant that we signed for with OEM that pays for half of the operating expenses for the emergency manager position and equipment funding. So it's a 50-50 grant match. It actually went up this year. They gave us a larger grant, totaling $88,791 for the 50%. So requesting board to approve and sign the agreement so I can get it back to OEM.
I move to approve and sign the emergency management performance agreement.
Second, discussion. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Thank you,
Thank
Gabe.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem whatsoever. Glad you found your way to join in with us.
Me too.
Consent calendar. We have a motion for approval.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
And second that. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, that motion is approved. And I believe with that, we move on to citizen comments. Welcome anyone who is here to visit with us. And Bobby, you're going to have to help me here because I'm not sure how to tell if someone's okay. We don't have anyone who's showing an interest in providing citizen comments. Give it just a minute more or a few seconds more. Apparently no one's interested this morning. Commissioner reports. Melissa.
Okay. Let's see. So we've had a busy couple of weeks. I feel like everybody's trying to fit things in before the end of the year, before the holidays. Our county clerk, Debbie Heller, will be retiring at the end of the year. And the commissioners held interviews of people that were interested in being appointed as the next county clerk. That position will be appointed until the next clerk is sworn in as a result of the general election next year. So we were really clear that whoever we picked would actually either have to file for election or be somebody who didn't intend to run again. And we interviewed 5 people, all very good candidates, and we selected Dee Dee, and we selected her because she had previously worked in the clerk's office and had that experience. And she has told us that she does not intend to run for election, so that seat will be open. It'll be a primary filing. Somebody will need to file if they're interested in running. But I think, you know, like I said, 5 very good candidates, and it was an interesting process. And I think with these big elections we have coming up next year, Dee Dee will be the smoothest possible choice for that. In addition to that, let me see, I attended the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Summit, virtually anyway. It was nice. They held it virtually and in person this year, and so you had the option of which way you wanted to attend. I believe Commissioner Main attended in person. I'm not sure about you, Commissioner Sweet. I know you had other
I was
meetings
there for part of it, then had to leave.
Okay. I've been engaged in several housing discussions lately, it seems like. I'm always impressed with all the housing work that's taking place in our community, and it's always nice to hear how that's progressing. I know it's not fast enough for anybody, especially anybody that's looking for a place to live, but I do feel like we're making progress at this point. And I'm glad that we approved the resolution on moving forward with the buildings code process, because I think that will also help. I chaired a Coquille Tribe Community Fund board meeting, and we made decisions on our grants for that. And a lot of needy organizations in our area, a lot of people will sleep better knowing that they got those grants. We kind of prioritized funding for people that were food insecure, and organizations that were still struggling because of the pandemic. I have been appointed to the Land Conservation and Development Commission's Rules Advisory Committee for shoreline armoring of roads that are located, basically it's for Highway 101. And so we had our first organizational meeting on that and have 2 more meetings coming up, one in January and one in March. And the Rules Advisory Committee doesn't obviously actually make the rules, but they do advise staff on, you know, the impacts of rules and what rules would potentially make a difference. We are currently working on a grant application for courthouse improvements that will be sent to the Courthouse Improvement Committee and hopefully get funded for the next biennium. We're looking at replacing a lot of single pane windows and putting in new carpet in the hallways and potentially painting the outside of the courthouse. So we will put in a grant for all 3 of those. I chaired a virtual Energy Trust board meeting. And right at the end of that, the governor had a press conference on the new COVID variant, Omicron. And so she had a meeting with the county chairs. Since I started doing those meetings, I've just continued. And so anyway, it was a meeting with the county chairs and the school superintendents just to answer any questions that anybody had. They are very focused on boosters right now, and there's no talk of further restrictions, but yeah, that's where they're at. They also weren't completely ruling them out. Attended an Elliott State Research Forest meeting. Again, that they're working on legislation for that for the February short session. We had our holiday potluck here in the Owen building, which was a lot of fun and nice to see all of our staff that were able to attend and talk to the community outreach person for Charter about their efforts to put in more broadband to the rural areas of Coos County, especially Lakeside. And that's a build out that they're planning on and around East Bay Drive. And yesterday I spoke with Senator Anderson for a little bit. He was reaching out to find out what issues we were looking at on the South Coast and asking if we had decided to put in for the homeless coordination project, pilot project that the state is doing. And I did tell him that we had approved that at our last meeting and had sent in the letter. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. I'm a little late in doing this, so we should have done this at the last Board of Commissioners meeting, and that is to congratulate our Coquille High School and Marshfield High School football teams for winning state championships in their respective divisions. Quite an honor, and they were both very overpowering throughout the season. We received a nice grant to put in ADA compliant sidewalks at our 10-mile boat ramp area, so our parks will be handling that. As some of you know, the Coquille River bank just out of Coquille on the way to Myrtle Point is eroding and jeopardizing our gas pipeline, and so we have authorized some sheet piling to keep that from damaging the pipeline, and the contractor is about halfway done with that project. A lot of thanks to Paul Slater of the Roads Department for expediting that. I had a Fair Board meeting last night. I think the commissioners should be well aware that in our arrangement with the Myrtle Point schools, they have been paying their share of the utilities, water and electricity, for a building they're using on our fairgrounds due to some structural problems and demolition of one of their schools. We had not been appropriately billing them for the amount that was due us, and so we're going to correct that. Want you to be aware of that in case there's some pushback from Myrtle Point citizens or the school. They've had a pretty good deal, but we'll get back to charging what the real amount due is. We had a meeting for the first time in several decades of the Coos Bay Wagon Road Appraisal Committee. I think commissioners are well aware of this. The Coos Bay Wagon Road Act calls for payments in lieu of taxes to the county by the BLM who manages those lands, and the value on which those payments in lieu of taxes is supposed to be set by an appraisal committee, which the BLM has failed to convene for several decades. And in our view, they've been underestimating the value in which those payments should be paid. So hopefully this will lead to some improvement in the amount of money we get from the BLM for our Wagon Road lands. Attended the Christmas potluck. It was really nice to be able to get together with our staff, and we did not do that last year. And finally, last Friday, I attended the annual meeting of the Association of Oregon and California Railroad Counties. Again, this is a timberlands issue. That association last year, maybe a couple years ago, actually sued the BLM and the Department of Interior for failure to harvest the lands as the act, as the ONC Railroad Act had called for. They prevailed in that argument, and the judge has ordered the BLM to redo their resource management plan, which hopefully will result in more harvest and more revenues coming from those lands. And I think that completes what I have to say, except that to wish everyone that's here and all our staff a very Merry Christmas. You deserve it. It's been a strenuous year. So enjoy yourselves and enjoy your time with your families. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.